And welcome to Liberty Freedom with Harper and Brian. Harper will be with us momentarily, and so, but we want to, make sure we don't want to take up too much of Chad Prather's time, and so we want to make sure we keep going. And so, just want to say thank you for everyone that has been on, and thank you to everyone that has been listening to Liberty and Freedom since the beginning. And since we started this series last month with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, and now we're having Chad Prather on with us. And just also want to also mention that we are definitely reaching out to everyone that is, that are running for governor, and we want to make sure that we have, get everyone to talk about their, the issues, and especially the things we as Bledsoe advocate for. And matter of fact, I think Harper is joining us, maybe. But yeah, so we wanted to definitely get on and then let everyone know. There's Harper. How are you doing? Harper, you there? Oh, maybe not. Harper. Oh, oh, maybe. Oh, maybe not. Well, maybe have some technical difficulties. So, with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and start our interview with Chad. And so, bring him on right quick. How you doing there, Mr. Prather?
I'm doing, I'm doing good, Brian. We got to get Harper back. Where'd she go? What happened?
Well, we might be having technical difficulties. I know a lot of times, with me, I'm on the road, so a lot of times it's on my end because I'm in a spot where I don't have reception. So I know how it goes. So, but
The
for people
devil
that,
is in technology, brother. You know what? The devil is in technology, man. It's always gonna mess up, no matter how hard you try.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So for people that don't know, Chad Prather, if you've seen him as a host on Blaze TV with Chad Prather Show, he, as we put on our graphics, a political commentator, comedian, but especially we want to mention that he's running for governor of Texas, and we wanted to bring him on to talk about some of the issues, especially that Bledsoe advocate for, and get your position on it. And like I said, it'll probably be, I guess, for the next 30 minutes or so. And so if people want to know more about you, I guess give some, have some more description for yourself.
People can always go to Prather2022.com to find out what we're doing in this governor race. We're having a good time with this thing. I tell people they can also go to AbbottOut.com or Beto22.com. Still comes to me. And
Oh,
people can, it's a lot of fun, man. You might as well have fun with this thing. I'm not going to let the liberals and the lefties and the lunatics and the progressives play the game that we failed to play for so long. We're going to get down in the weeds where they are and do it the same way. So I have no shame in trolling them in that way. So go to Beto22.com. People can also go to WatchChad.com and find out about what we're doing on the entertainment side of things and the show side of things. But man, I love Texas, Brian. You and I go back a long way, and you and I share a deep affinity for all things conservatism, and we really love the great state of Texas, man. I'm proud to be here and thankful for what's happening right now as we're seeing conservatism truly emerge and rise to the forefront. People's eyes are being opened in a big way. So I'm pretty excited to be a part of that. I think it's a real movement, almost like a religious movement, a spiritual movement that's happening right now. And I'm pretty excited about being a part of that.
yeah. And we have Harper, and she's
There
back.
she is.
Hey there, Harper. Uh, you have your audio on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, like we mentioned before we got started, we're gonna let you ask the first question.
So my first question is, what would you consider to be the biggest agenda that the governor has to tackle, and how would you go about getting what you want across?
First of all, Harper, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I blame Brian completely for that. I'm glad you're on because you are the classiest part of this show. For me, it's state sovereignty. It is Texas making sure that Texas takes care of Texas, and that Texas is not one amongst 49, but Texas is number one. Texas has to become a priority. We're not, just like we see the federal government right now in this process of globalizing America. The United States is being lessened in terms of its specialness, its uniqueness, and its importance in a big, big way. And that's an agenda. I think we have to be careful because Texas is not the Texas that most Texans think it is anymore. And we've dropped way down in terms of our rankings. People tend to think of Texas as being very, very top in so many different areas, but we tend to rank in the 40s when it comes to opportunity and healthcare and education, so many other things that I could list. So for me, the first agenda is making Texas first and understanding that our borders are sacred, that our legacy and our heritage is important to maintain and to carry on and to pass on to the next generation and make folks proud to be Texans again.
Yeah, great answer. And another one is, so a lot of people are more on the comedy side of things, like you, for example, Steven Crowder, and it's still getting the message across, but it's getting it across in a way that is more digestible for people that aren't really into politics or they're just not getting started. Um, how did you find your niche, and how would you suggest other people search for theirs? Like they might be the more collar buttoned up version of, but it's all basically the same thing.
The biggest thing people can do is be real, be who you are, be genuine. The biggest thing that I've heard over the last decade is that people come to me and they'll say that the appealing thing about your message is we believe you believe in it. There's a genuineness to it. There's a realness to it. My philosophy, and I don't speak for Steven Crowder and various others who are very capable in doing this, but my philosophy has been let's take common sense. Let's wrap it in a little bit of humor and make it an easier pill to swallow. And I think that when people can laugh a little bit along with these very serious issues, they walk away not only feeling a little bit better about life, but they also have a point or something, a hook to hang their hat on, and to walk away with something to think about. So for me, I encourage people to be real, but look, if you're very serious and if you're buttoned up and you're that very straightforward, logical kind of person, be that person. Don't try to be funny. I just think that it works for me in that regard. Using wit with wisdom, I think works. But I encourage people, just be yourself. That's the biggest thing. And somebody asked me yesterday at an event, they said, how do we get our message out there? And I said, don't stop talking about it. Don't stop preaching. The liberal mindset has been that if we say something enough, that people will begin to believe it. Well, that's true psychologically. We have to keep preaching that message. And to the degree that we do, I believe that life's experiences, life's failures, and our message mixed together will make people's eyes open up and they'll realize that there's a better way of living out there that folks can come around to. And that's what you call being red pilled or Blexit or even Brexit or Lexit. There's so many exits I can't even list them off anymore. Harper, I'm just glad to know people are coming out.
Yeah. So I mean, as you mentioned with Blexit, there are, when it comes to different issues, there are a lot of different areas that we definitely advocate for, and one of them is school choice. And just wanted to ask you, like, what is your position on school choice? And yeah.
So Brian, I want to get government out of our lives, right? That's in every aspect. I'm running on a let's make politics boring again policy and platform. I want to get politics out of our life. I want to get government out of our lives. The government has gotten so big that their overreach and inreach has become so expansive. And so here's a theory I'm working on, and I'm happy to share it with you guys because y'all are my friends, and I'm kind of thinking out loud when I think of this. But when it comes to public schools, I've been pretty vocal about the public school system, especially since the late 40s, has been very humanistic. It's been very socialistic. And these days, we're seeing a lot of Marxism that's being imported into the public school system. So you have this newly packaged label of critical race theory, which is just the old Marxist race or critical theory, and we're just repackaging it. And so I look at the public school system as being an indoctrination system. We turn our kids over to what, for lack of better terms, being brainwashing camps, and they come out and then they go to college, which is just a higher degree of brainwashing camps, and they graduate after 4 or 5 years with a degree in undecided, because we as parents failed to help them understand their identity and what their destiny was supposed to be. So to the question, I want us to get the educational system back in the hands of the parents. Yes, the choice should be up to the parents. Yes, parents should be able to choose where their kids and how their kids are educated. But at the end of the day, it falls on the parents' shoulders to do that. Relying on the state to educate our kids, I believe, is a bad philosophy. So you say school choice. Yeah, I think you should have a choice at where your kids go to school, but you're just choosing one place of indoctrination over another. So I want us to get, and that's one of the reasons why I've opposed the Tebow bill. The Tebow bill was was something that was a proposal that would get homeschooling children the opportunity to participate in sports along with public school children. And I said you shouldn't do that, because that allows the government and the state to get their hands into what you do as a homeschooling parent. And you don't want that kind of encroachment. You don't want that invasion to happen. So much of what we do is hoping that the public school system will throw us a bone. So this is radical. And when I say that, I'm like, they want to throw us a bone like vouchers or school choice and these other terminologies. What I want to do is get the power back in the hands of the parents. The parents determine how and where their children are educated. And it's a radical idea, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. But I want to get education of children ultimately out of the hands of the state as far as it goes. I mean, look, if we're going to pay property taxes or we're going to fund these educational institutions right now, then we should be the final say in how they are operated. And we all know that right now they're not being operated in the way that we believe as conservatives they should be. So I'm trying to work on how that verbiage needs to come out, but I'm also working on some radical ideas that puts education back into the hands of the parents and the final authority back in the home. And we're a long way out from that, because we've adopted a lot of things that are cancers, and we're just trying to figure out how to identify these cancers in very palatable ways. The public education system right now is one of those cancers. Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about the teachers, all right? These folks out there that are working hard to educate your children, who believe in the education or believe in being teachers as educators. Their hands are tied right now. We got to untie those teachers' hands, allow them to teach, allow them to evaluate, allow them to promote. And right now they're not doing that. The STAR test is a perfect example of how we've standardized our children, and we're training for the test rather than truly teaching kids how to think anymore. I want us to get past all of that. It's a radical idea, but I believe that there's something out there that we're not approaching right now that we need to do. And it's going to be pretty crazy. I'm also running on a platform, guys, Brian and Harper. I'm running on a platform that any complex problem can't be solved with political correctness, and that's one of those that can't be.
Yeah, I know. Like, so one thing you mentioned is the fact that the responsibility aspect, and that's something that we as conservatives tend to not want to talk about, because it's it's a scary thing to talk about, really, because the thing about limited government, yes, we can advocate for limited government all we want, but we also need to make sure to let people know that it's not going to be easy, because
So
it means you're going to have to be more responsible for a lot of other things, and that scares people, and that's kind of one thing that we don't want to talk about, but yeah, that's something that needs to be said.
see, my issue with conservatives today is we've become big government conservatives. The government's gotten so big and so involved in our lives that if suddenly tomorrow the government was made smaller, we wouldn't know what to do with ourselves. We wouldn't know
Yeah.
how to educate our families. We wouldn't know how to take care of our families, provide for our families. There's so many different subsidies and dividends and freebies that are out there, the welfare programs, all these various things that suddenly, if that were to change tomorrow, we'd be in a deep, deep mess. I, what I'm trying to do is educate people and open their eyes. And I know you're doing the same in your own regard of helping people to understand that government dependence is not the solution. But unfortunately, every single one of us, no matter how good our vocabulary is, have in some way or form become government dependent. That's got to stop. Uh, we have got to make the government smaller. We call ourselves conservatives, but we're not conserving anything. So I want that to change. I want us to stop that. It's going to be a hard process, but at the end of the day, we got to roll up our sleeves and go to work.
So one I guess in that sense, I mean, as being, when you're governor of Texas, I mean, that'll be one step forward for everyone to see as far as to to actually see that this actually can work and not be so afraid about it. Now, so in that, in saying that, another tenet for Blexit is entrepreneurship. And I know you have a lot on your website on the economy. And so,
Yeah.
but for the people that don't know, how would you enable entrepreneurship, in Texas?
So I'm a free market guy. I love capitalism. God, I love capitalism a lot. Listen, if I want to hold a yard sale every doggone Saturday for the rest of my life and make as much cash, I believe that a person ought to be able to make as much money as they can make, keep as much of it away from the government. I believe taxation is theft. I believe that when you make money, it's your money, and you ought to determine what you do with it. I don't think you ought to be taxed out of your home. I think I think that you should be able to raise your family how you want to, and keep the government out of your life. And at the end, be able to sit on a porch and maybe kick back in a rocking chair and enjoy your grandchildren without a lot of interference. Brian, the governor just passed 666 new laws 2 weeks ago. I've never woken up and said, I think I need 600 more laws in my life. I need 600 more pieces of legislation to tell me what I can and can't do. I want people to be free. I want people to be free. I want people to be entrepreneurs. I want to decrease the regulations. Let's take an example of a salon or a hairdresser, right? Maybe you're great at cutting hair, but you're not great at filling out applications. You have to be licensed and regulated and all these things just to cut somebody's hair in the state of Texas. Now, I'm not saying there shouldn't be some form of regulations. I don't need somebody putting a bowl on my head and cutting what little bit of hair I've got off, like that. But at the same time, we're regulating people to death, man. Let's lift all that stuff and let people go to work. Let's let people get after it and make the money and be incentivized by keeping the money that they make. This is ridiculous, man. We've gotten to the point we're overspending to the point where years ago I stepped out, and Brian, you know this. I stepped out years ago and I said I'm just going to go make a living being myself. I didn't understand the word entrepreneurship, but I went out there and did it without knowing the word. And it made all the difference in the world. So I want to enable people to do that without all the regulations, without trying to figure out which forms they have to file, what lawyers they have to talk to. Let's go out and make money, man. It's great to enjoy capitalism, and I think Texas ought to be the leader of the free world in marketing that.
Oh, Harper.
One other thing that just came to mind is about gerrymandering, and so what would be not necessarily a solution, but it's definitely going to be a huge um, debate in the coming years with both parties. One or the other is going to have the ability to draw whatever district they want to at this point.
So one of the things, and we're seeing that coming up, right? People keep asking me when the primary election is going to happen. Typically, it would be happening in March, probably going to be more like June or July because of the redistricting in the state of Texas. Um, and there's going to be lawsuits, right? The lawsuits are going to delay everything. So, what we've got to do is I go back to small government, right? I want people to be represented by the person that they feel can represent them best and is going to represent their convictions and their interests to the best degree possible. So, what we've got to do is rather than expanding government, let's reduce it. Let's restrict it. Let's get government to a smaller size, and let's de-incentivize this nonsense of creating more and more seats and more at the top. If it's truly a pyramid, and the power lies at the base where the base is broadest, let's let those people have the power. Ultimately, it comes down to the power of the people. What is the decision of the people through the election process? What are their priorities? What are they wanting? That should be demonstrated by the man or woman they put in a seat, whether it's the city council, the school board, or a House representative seat. And let's let that rule, because otherwise we're getting back into tyranny in the form of monarchy. And unfortunately, that's what it looks like more and more these days.
Yeah, and, you know, another aspect as far as government in particular, and another thing that we as blacks advocate for is criminal justice reform. And I just want to ask, like what would be your definition of criminal justice reform, and how would you tackle that?
I think President Donald Trump did a great job of opening people's eyes to see what the true conservative value of prison reform was. There are people who are in penitentiaries who are occupying jail cells who shouldn't be there. There's too many nonviolent criminals that are in there. People want to talk about their taxes going higher and higher, but yet we're going to continue to fill up these prisons. We've got to stop doing that. The prison system was founded in America by the Puritans. The Puritans, that's why it's called a penitentiary, because it was supposed to make men and women penitent. It was supposed to make them prayerful. In fact, some of the oldest prisons, the historic prisons in America, you had to bow down to go through the cell door, and it was supposed to put you in a posture of bowing, ultimately to make you penitent, and to put you in a position of kneeling to pray. Our penitentiaries are not truly reforming people. They're not. That's not, I believe freedom reforms. I don't believe that incarceration reforms. Certainly, there are those who do not need to be a part of public society, but we've gotten too legislatively happy on the judicial system. There needs to be desperate reform. Too many fathers have been taken away from their children. Too many parents have been taken away from the home. This is something we have to look at, and not look at it carte blanche across the board and say this is a black or white issue. And I don't mean that with any pun intended, since this is a Blexit interview, but it needs to look at it and say, hey, there are specific human aspects to every crime that happens, and we need to take a look at this, because right now, obviously, the system is broken. And same as our immigration system, the systems are broken, and we're continuing to trust in them because we're lazy. So I go back to what I said earlier. It's time for people to get involved, roll our sleeves up, and let's do the dirty work.
Yeah, and Harper, did you have one thing? Do you have another question?
Yeah, I think that's definitely correct. And I mean, a lot of people don't even know what the system is. They think that, the government's got this, it's under control, but I don't think the average person knows how many people are flooding across the border, how many, and just how um, everything is going along, because they want to work and live their day-to-day lives and not be entrenched in politics. They don't realize that politics affects their day lives, especially on the local level.
I don't, 2 weeks ago when I woke up, I wasn't thinking, man, I really want to deal with 23,000 illegal Haitians at the southern border. But that's the reality, right? We're going to deal with these issues, whether we choose to deal with them volitionally or not. Like we're going to deal with these issues because these issues are on our doorstep, literally. And what I continue to tell people is that if we don't change things, the Texas of the future is untenable. We're not going to have a legacy to leave to our children, because we're allowing things to happen in the name of political correctness that quite simply cannot continue to function in us to survive and to succeed as Texans and certainly as Americans. So we've got to have a hard conversation. We've got to get to a point where we understand that political correctness, wokeism, progressivism is it's quite honestly insanity. And we're trying to make our ideologies into our politics. and to our policies. These things have got to change, Harper. I, for one, love the position that I'm in because I'm not bought out by anybody. I'm not. I don't have any big donors. I enjoy the position of political correctness of being able to say whatever I want to say without fear of repercussion in any way, shape, or form. Because at the end of the day, I'm about opening people's eyes. I want people to see how we're being deceived in a big way by government. And those things are the kind of things that need to change. Whether we get blocked, demonetized, deplatformed, I'm in Facebook jail right now. You know what? It's worth it. And I'm happy to continue doing it because let's tell the truth, right? That's what we've got to continue doing.
Yeah, I saw that you you posted about being in Facebook jail. So, but hey, here you are though. You're on Facebook still. They can't get rid of you.
Brian, you know what I'm going to do, man? You know what I'm going to do, Brian? You can't shut me down, man. Like, I'm at a point now where, honestly, and I told some of my folks yesterday, I'm going to start a paper newsletter. I'm going to send it out by mail, by snail mail, in your mailbox. I want to start, and you heard it here first, I'm going to start a newsletter. We're going old school. I want to rewrite the Federalist Papers. I want to create that phenomenon of just putting paper, print back in people's hands and sending it out once a month or a couple of times a month and having contributors like yourselves that are talking about issues and opening people's eyes, because at the end of the day, you can't block that, man. And it's going to come to a point in time where our grandfather's patriotism is going to become our reality again. Otherwise, we're going to be controlled by Silicon Valley and big tech and multinational corporations and foreign entities and big government. And man, I don't know. I think I'm with you guys when I say I'm just absolutely sick of it.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to talking about everything's going digital, and a couple of weeks ago you had where the Constitution has like some sort of a warning on it saying. So I mean, so you have stuff like that going on. So if you have everything digital, then that gives the people in power that can run those sites. They can do whatever they want, and
Yeah.
people can totally forget about history. So you're definitely right. We're definitely going we probably going back to pen and paper and having to have the actual hard copies to make
I
sure the
mean,
history is preserved.
thank God for those midnight riders, right? That ran through the cities and the towns and the villages, saying the British were coming. And in this gubernatorial run of mine, I don't have the millions of dollars, right? So what we're able to do with a small amount of money is amazing because I tell people I don't have the television, but I have the teleperson. And so by shouting our message with conviction and passion and purpose, you can't unplug paper. And so the message is out there, and I'm fortunate enough to have a platform, whether it's my show on Blaze TV, social media when they'll let me have it. I think I'm shut down on Facebook right now, and I'm shut down on TikTok, and I think I'm limited on Instagram.
Hmm.
That's why I moved over to Free Space. I'm over on Free Space. I'm on all of them, right? But it's insanity right now.
Yeah.
I just love having conversations with real people at the end of the day. And in some ways, I thank God for this craziness that is social media. We can't let it, because social media is socialist, right? It's owned by a rich guy. He gives it to us for free. He monitors what we say. And when we don't say what he agrees with, he takes that right away from us. So if we continue to pander to that. But I'm just not going to be in that form of, I'm just not going to be indentured to Mark Zuckerberg and his ilk.
Yeah. And so, well, we're coming up on 30 minutes here, but I do have one last question that I want to ask
I'm with you guys
every.
as long as y'all want to hang out, Brian.
Oh well, I don't even know how long we supposed to be on, but
I
but
don't
I do
know.
want to
Go
I
till
do
the
want to ask.
phone dies. I think I got 10% more.
Okay. Well, my last question is what I want to ask every candidate that we're going to have on is everybody is dealing with the pandemic for the past over year, and so I just want to ask you, how would you handle the pandemic differently than the current administration as governor?
So, so people always say, they call me an armchair quarterback, and they say I would have, you wouldn't have done anything different. Look, you can read the headlines or you can read the Constitution. I've chosen to read the Constitution over and over again, both the U.S. Constitution and the Texas Constitution. What I wish Greg Abbott would have done, and understand, I voted for Greg Abbott 2 different times as governor, but I'm very disappointed because I believe he's violated the U.S. or the Constitution, the U.S. and the Texas Constitution, up to 14 times in the last 18 months. I wish he would have come out and said, "Hey, we're up against something that we've never seen before. It's a mystery. We don't know what we're going to do, but we're Texans and we're all in this thing together." And just like when Hurricane Harvey hit, we didn't mandate that you take care of your neighbors. You just pulled together and you did it. So I'm going to encourage you to do that now. If you don't want to go to church, or you don't want to go to work, or you want to shut your business down, if you want to wear a mask, you want to social distance, or you want to stay in your home, that's your choice. You do that. But we're a free state. We're going to encourage you to continue celebrating your freedom, but with responsibility, because with freedom comes responsibility. If he had done that and understood and taught people that the Constitution is not about keeping you healthy or keeping you safe, the Constitution is written to keep you free, then I think the Texans would have responded far more graciously and generously to that. But you know what? We have a governor who right now spends about $25,000 a week on opinion polls, and that's how he governs, based on how people respond. He did what the rest of the country, including the federal government, was encouraging him to do, and unfortunately, that's what we got. And I wish it had never happened, because it truly showed his colors as a campaign conservative, and it's ruined a lot of people's lives.
All right. Well, that's the last question for me. Harper, you have anything? Oh, we might
Harper,
have.
don't freeze on me. Don't freeze on me now, Harper.
Well, it may seem like she have, but well, like I said, see, we're at the 30-minute mark, so you know how it is. So,
I know.
like, but he said you got 10%, so I don't want to drain all your batteries. So I appreciate you coming on, and yeah, so if if people want to know more, you already mentioned your website before, but I guess any last words?
Yep, Prather2022.com. I'm more encouraged than ever before. I'm crisscrossing the state. I'm in a different city, different county every single night. You can find me on Blaze TV and on YouTube, The Chad Prather Show, and Prather2022.com. I'm out there running my mouth nonstop. I'll talk to anybody that'll stand still or walk slow and listen to my show, because it's unadulterated and politically incorrect. And I'm talking about the things that will make Texas and America great. Brian, you know I love you, buddy. You and I go way, way back. You're one of my buds and one of my friends and my brother. And Harper, I appreciate you as well. And thank you guys for making your voice heard in the way that you do. And anything I can ever do to support you guys in a bigger way, let me know. I love y'all.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, brother.
All right. So again, thanks to Chad Prather for joining us. And well, we were over 33 minutes now. So yeah. So we have, as of right now, we have one more scheduled interview with Don Huffines, former Texas senator. He'll be on next month. It'll be on Halloween. I remember that date. So yeah, it'll be on October 31st, same time. So come and join us again, and we'll ask pretty much the same questions, and kind of like what I mentioned with Lieutenant Colonel Allen West and with Chad, is that we want to make sure that we definitely ask the questions that are especially relevant for us here at Bledsoe. And so yeah, so I appreciate Chad for joining us, and yeah, for myself and Harper Price, I guess we will see you next month with Don Huffines.